Windows K, as it says.
Well, he's got an Apple, so you
No,
can
I
try
meant
that.
on the keyboard.
Yeah, on the keyboard there, I can't. Windows.
I'll try.
Literally just what it says on the screen.
know, I can't.
I have no inside information here. I'm just,
Yeah, no, I don't see the Windows.
I read the words. Oh, do they not have a Windows key on that thing?
There's not
That's
Windows.
hilarious.
I tried that.
You tried that?
Try this one.
So,
There should actually be a remote control on the table.
There are several. There's a Samsung and then there's that one there. What should I do with the remote control from the
So
table?
the Samsung one should be the one for the TV, and if you change the input, you should get.
Oh,
Zoom.
okay, all right, hold on. Where's the input button on this
Source.
thing?
thanks, Jackie.
Source? That's like input.
There we go.
Alright,
Zoom.
which one am I looking for? Oh, Zoom.
That's right. That was right.
How many finance committee members does it take?
Exactly, the whole committee. Awesome,
So-
thanks, Jackie.
We just who controls what you. So we'll tell
Oh,
Sharon, she's the one that's on camera.
Hi, Sharon. We all see you now. On the big screen here.
Hi.
Are the other committee members able to unmute and stuff?
Yeah, well, thanks.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, well, I'll call the meeting to order, and then we'll do a roll call, and then we'll be able to verify if everyone can hear us. Okay, I'll start with the folks that are on Zoom. John?
Here.
Emily?
Present.
Mark?
Yes.
Jeffrey?
Here.
Yeah.
Joe?
Here.
Joe Carnahan?
Please be more specific.
I'm sorry about that.
Joe Carnahan present.
Andrew?
Present.
Same
Joe
answer.
McDonough?
Here, you want to answer for me?
And Mary Ann?
We'll just table
And here, so, okay, we're all here and accounted for. Terrific, so thanks, everybody. Just agenda-wise, I mentioned to the folks in the room that slight kind of change in the agenda. So we'll start off, I'll give a quick update on the appointments, liaison reports. We'll have a CPA update, the Killam discussion, so the Killam discussion part, we can definitely have the pre-K presentation from Dr. Milichevsky. We're gonna have to table that piece of it. Dr. Milichevsky isn't available. And then we will vote to reorganize and then approve minutes, and then we'll talk about future meeting dates and then be on our way. So with that, just a quick thing on the appointments. Congratulations to Jeffrey, they're all sitting at the same time at the side of the table. Jeffrey, Joe, and Indri on appointments for three-year appointments. That was settled up at the end of June. They're now officially starting this is their first meeting in their new appointment term. So congrats, fellas. Good to have you back and on the committee. So good news there. Go on to liaison reports. I have one for Killam, but I'll kind of open it up for anyone else that wants to do it, and then we can kind of go. If anyone has something they want to start, and then I can end with Killam because that can bleed into the Killam discussion. Let's take that. Maybe we'll take that. Yeah, go ahead, Maria. Sure.
I don't know, I signed in onto that MMA presentation that Karen mentioned. I don't know if anyone else watched it.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks. I was just going to ask if anyone had that.
so I listened to it, and, you know, there was a lot to it, but I did not realize that there's a thing called the Inflation Reduction Act, and along with Mass Save, that allows towns up until 2032 to be able to get direct money back,
Yeah.
like tax credits in advance towards certain energy improvements.
Yep.
You know, it's outside of MSBA, so they kept emphasizing that in the presentation because MSBA has their own path of it.
Yep.
And, you know, some questions even came up in the presentation, given what's happening on the national stage, and that's all I'm going to say on that. Like, oh, would some of this go away if there's a change in administration? And they said, well, Congress can't even change this even mid-year, so any projects you would start in 2024 and 2025 would be okay.
Yep.
And what I learned a lot from was they had the town manager from the town of Easton, who's doing a public safety facility, which town police and fire, and what they were doing and how they somehow managed to get back in November, I think it was a $150 million debt exclusion. This is coming after a school. They had some tips on, you know, getting that to pass and getting boards on board, places on board. But what, tying that into this Inflation Reduction Act money, that was the tipping point I got from the presentation, and you can tell me if you agree, that made it cost-wise worth it for them, because they had these columns of would it pay off, and a lot of scenario, like using geothermal or more energy-efficient systems, and whether it would pay off or not, and the only scenario on which it would fiscally make sense for them was with being able to qualify for both Mass Save and Inflation Reduction Act money.
Yeah.
So somewhere on MMA, there's a presentation on that. I'm sure in Killam,
Yep.
you'd go through that same thing.
Okay.
So I wondered about that for our senior center, because I said, well, that's probably a consideration, even though that's in the future. But then I also, and this is something for the permanent building committee, because I may be talking out of my butt about this part of it. When I think of geothermal and drilling, and I think of drilling over on the Simon's Way side, and what are we going to find? And maybe it's drilling in totally different levels, and maybe you're not going to drill and find contaminants when you're doing geothermal, and maybe that has been addressed. So I don't know if it's a two-edged sword. Nobody in the audience was asking the question, oh, when you're looking for geothermal, what if you find something else?
Yep.
You know, so those were my thoughts, and there's people that have better knowledge of this than me in Reading that can look into it.
Yep.
But MMA definitely has some good resources, and we should keep it in mind, it sounds like, for the senior center, because it's money that will go away, but is available now.
Yep.
And did you get anything else out of it?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you just said, Marion. The other thing too, like, I was even thinking of like, and this, did you get the presentation? I could forward that to Jackie, but.
Yeah, I haven't
Just forward
downloaded it,
to
I know
Jackie
they
and
mentioned,
that'd be great.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
that'd
know
be
they
great.
mentioned it, I
Yeah.
just haven't acquired it.
But a couple of things I liked about it is like, it's a tax credit, so.
It's
the min-
immediate.
So you actually, the town actually would file like a federal, tax, you know, which we've never done like as obviously a tax exempt entity, right? And there's no, doesn't seem, once you qualify, it's not like a grant, there's no competition for it. So as long as you qualify,
Yeah.
it makes financial sense.
Yeah.
And you may be able to use, I agree, like whether it's like the Living Center or whether it's even buying like, electric vehicles.
Right, it's
Like
just
commercial
any
vehicles.
energy
use that as an
efficient
example.
improvements, it's very specific to that.
Yep.
Yeah. But they did say like that, it's not straightforward. People are gonna spend a lot of time, even like, you can imagine, federal government, state government being involved, approving the process. It's not gonna be like, just sign here, you know, you
Yeah,
get the
exactly.
money.
So
So,
there's,
yeah, I don't know if it fits into Mary Ann's point. Easton like has much more land.
Yeah.
They only worry about wetland. You know,
Right.
they had tons of land to build this massive
Yeah,
center.
some of this has come up, I can go through it, and some of that kind of came up in where we're.
So
where
it's
we're
like
at.
if they were trying to say, if you're a town with a project in process,
Yeah.
don't forget about this as an avenue to help save you money.
Yep.
Yeah.
But then there's also, you know, you've got to get the project approved, and, you know, you can tell the public about this aspect of it to help save you money. The only other part of an update unrelated to this was, and sort of tying into the senior center a little bit, was in the most recent select board meeting, the ice arena was there, and some of us have wondered, well, some in the community, oh, well, can you even put anything over at Simon's Way? And the ice arena authority said, basically, you know, we're okay as long as we can keep our parking.
Yeah.
I can summarize what
Yep.
they said. You know, so, and if you take any of our parking, you've got to give us parking, you know, in your area. Because they said they have a lot of surge events that need more parking.
Yep.
So I guess that's a positive.
Thanks for
That's it for me.
Yeah, thanks.
I'll jump in and follow on just the other thing with the ice arena. Carl McFadden's presentation that probably this year, he talked about how, you know, the ice arena has returned $3.5 million, I think he said, over 31 years. Also talked about they just replaced the roof. They're not expecting to return any money this year because they just replaced the roof and depleted their reserves. I know there are folks at you know, RMLD and some folks on the select board who were interested in the possibility of solar panels on that new roof, but they ruled that out because it would have taken.
It would void the warranty.
Yes, it would void the warranty on the roof
Right.
and take 25 years to pay for itself, and they, you know, it was not financially. Oh, and also it would raise snow removal logistical challenges that they weren't sure how to be able to address. So, taken together, they went with without that. So
Gotcha.
they got a new roof, $284K. Just ramping up. So.
Nice. Anybody else in the room? Anybody on online?
Just a quick update from Rec. Pickleball community has raised a significant amount of funds and are starting to explore options for repurpose or rebuild or new courts, and so that will affect the capital plan at some point, but early stages of talks with the town about where they can fit. But good for them. They've raised a ton of money and have organized, and they're really rolling. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's super. I don't know where I saw that, but I saw something about that, so I think that's fantastic news. I'm thrilled for them. Great job.
Did they, I just have to ask, how much is tons of funds? Like, did they give even a ballpark figure, number of digits?
did they what?
How much did they mention? Did they mention the amount, Emily, that they raised? Yeah, I couldn't. I think I saw a figure, but I couldn't tell you exactly what it was. I'll look through.
Every little bit helps, so,
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Anybody else with an update? John or Mark?
I don't know.
I just thought of one more thing that's not quite related to us, but just coming up as a reminder to everyone that a week from today is the MBTA Communities Update. And I know from talking to Andrew and the Assistant Town Manager that they're going to be presenting 4 new options, and they're going to have kind of tables like set up like the half of this, they talked about it in the recent CPDC meeting. So it's going to be a lot more interactive, where each options, people will be able to interact with the town and see more details about it and see close up. There'll be a brief presentation, and they're really hoping, you know, based on the feedback for that, they'll be able to come back with something to finalize in time for the fall warrant. So it's not quite a financial issue, but it's important for the town for compliance. And
Non-compliance would be a financial issue.
I think CPDC has seen what the options are, and I think that I've heard that they're very responsive to our feedback, so I think it'll be good for people, and they're gonna have it in the library, so people will be able to, it won't be like the school where, you know, everyone's trying to read on a screen.
Not the public's feedback, not just FinCom's, right?
Oh, yeah, no, FinCom doesn't have to be there, right?
No, yeah, no. When you said hour, I'm like, I think.
Yeah,
I thought you meant
I
public.
meant we, the citizens of Reading, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no, I don't need to apologize.
No, we're not posted.
Yeah, no, just want to clarify. I didn't think we carried that much weight. I'd like to.
Should we be posted for that, just in case a bunch of us show up?
I'll take that. I'll take that back and see if we.
Maybe each of the,
Just-
maybe
yeah.
even select.
Probably.
Probably should be posted.
Yeah,
so I don't
probably.
know.
All right, so I'll give because there's a lot happening. Oh, Jeff, did you have anything? You didn't have anything, okay. So I'll give a Killam update, and again, some of this will kind of bleed into the some of the aspects of the discussion that we have of the bullet, and there's a couple takeaways from that. But so a lot's been happening as it relates to Killam. We've had 2 of our meetings. We've actually also had a community meeting in between since our last meeting. And we've made kind of a lot of progress, and just kind of more on the meeting front. the Killam School Building Committee has a few subgroups as well, one on education, one on communications, and one on sustainability. The sustainability one is, education's kind of already kind of gone through its arc, and is, it probably doesn't have as much because that's what's really kind of informing the design team as far as what we wanted to be able to set up for space. So that's, I think a little bit plateaued. They probably will re-engage at some point. But sustainability, and it really gets back to what you were mentioning from the MMA presentation. A lot of talk about just the overall kind of footprint, and then a lot of talk about the Inflation Reduction Act, what types of options, and that process. So we've been very fortunate from a school building committee perspective. Both our OPM and designers are well versed in it, and so they're have been able to educate us on exactly what the process is, and what and I think it was even to Andrew's point, like when you qualify for it, it's basically you have to perform. Basically, after you build the building, you have to, the performance on the back end is what dictates some of the points that you get off, from MSBA, but then also for the Inflation Reduction Act as well. So there's, some of these are their performance based on the back end once you kind of build the building. So, and still more to be happening on the, we haven't made any determinations as far as the type of, heat source or, or anything along those lines. That's still to be determined. We did vote in, not our last meeting, but the meeting prior, we had, kind of 10 different schematic designs. We voted them down from 10 to 4. 2 of them, and these were all kind of MSBA kind of mandated. You need to have one that's a complete renovation. You need to have one that's a renovation addition, and then and both of those are kind of non-starters for us, but you're required to have those as far as your MSBA submission. And then we had 2 preferred designs. We as a committee voted on a couple to be able to reduce those selections down to those 4. But the qualifications, we also had votes on including all of RISE pre-K in the building. And so we voted to be able to do that, to include that. And the interesting note on that one is that we've kind of learned throughout the process in some of the discussions back with the MSBA on cost estimates, et cetera, that I think early on there was some questions and debate on whether if we did that, if the MSB was going to reimburse any of that, because it really was kind of out of scope. What we thought was out of scope because it's in kind of a K through 5 elementary, and this would be introducing something new. Come to find out that the way that we did our submission, initially our application to the MSBA, we included that as a possibility, and because we did, and it's not everything. It's probably, I think, maybe about 60% of the estimated cost, because it's for classrooms. Any kind of administration or kind of non-classroom, that's not necessarily reimbursable. But so a pretty significant amount of what that additional cost would be for that would be kind of reimbursed by the MSBA. So that's what kind of informed us as a committee to be able to vote for it. The other aspect that we voted on was basically just the kind of schematic design of the building, whether it should be 2 floors, 3 floors, and so the other one was that we've voted to recommend like a 3-story building. And so there's a couple different kind of designs of it, but and one of the things that you were talking about, Mary Ann, from the MMA piece about kind of ground sourced geothermal, actually geothermal. Even though the site that we have is tight, there's thought that they can do it all kind of underneath, whether underneath the building or underneath the parking lots to be able to do it on site. Yeah, it's on site. There's quite a few wells that they would have to drill, but given how we're going to have to, where the position of the building is going to be, which is going to be on where the ball fields are now, and then we'll end up raising the existing building afterwards. That given that and the areas where you could to do that, that would give you sufficient area to be able to do that drilling. Again, some of the devil's still in the details, and some of that's still yet to be determined. But it wasn't like it was a non-starter.
Yeah, the thing I didn't understand and I was actually listening to it while walking, not watching it, so I wasn't seeing your slides, is how they could manage that and build a school while kids are in the school, like how would you safely drill while these kids?
Yeah, so I think some of that, and that, it was actually a really good, that's a really good point, because I think the designer was talking about it, depending on the timing as far as when you start construction. If you start some of this stuff and you're starting it in the summer, then, I think that's part of the availability as far as, and it's also when the ground is easiest to drill. So it's both. I think it's both of those. But so it's kind of really we're making a lot of progress. Town meeting approved from free cash like the 2.2 million for the feasibility study, which is kind of where we're in the kind of later stages of that now, but we're still on budget and on time. We're waiting for some final feedback from our latest submission to the MSBA. But then our next meeting is in August. I think it's August 5th. And that's where we're going to determine, amongst other things, the preferred schematic design. So we'll have feedback back from MSBA on what we've submitted. And then on our end, we'll choose a preferred design on that August 5th meeting. And then I think how that kind of extends, I do think, and part of it was in the packet, and what I wanted Dr. Milchevsky to be able to present is that whole pre-K presentation. He's done it once at the Killam meeting. He also did it at the community meeting last week. Last week. I think it was last week. And it's really a good presentation, and it kind of just describes the knock-on effects of actually moving everything into Killam, because then it frees up space in Wood End, it frees up space at and the major point is freeing up a bunch of space in the high school. And so just that one, kind of, it's not minor, but that one change has such a drastic effect for just about the entire student population, because you're hitting so many different schools with it. So it was really kind of fascinating. I think what we'll end up doing is having him do that presentation as part of like the next community meeting that we do, financial forum light, type of things what we did that we did at the end of May. That next one, doing it towards the end of August or early September probably makes a lot of sense timing wise, because we've also made some progress on the preferred schematic design as well. So that's just something to be able to kind of keep in mind towards. But really we've come a long way. A lot's been happening, and when it's generally kind of a quiet time in the summer, but it's been kind of full steam ahead. I've been super impressed. You definitely learn something, kind of every meeting. It's a long process, and but yeah, we're doing well with it. Anybody have anything to add, or any questions regarding Killam? So sorry, Joe, I just took that Killam discussion a little bit out of order, just because I know it kind of segued with my liaison report. But we'll go back now, and then when we were putting the agenda together, Joe and I, we kind of Joe's our representative on the CPA committee, and had enough kind of, you guys have made enough progress to kind of give an update, so I'm just kind of passing over to you to give that.
I was originally thinking this would just be my liaison report, and then you made it a separate bullet in the agenda, which same difference. Real quick, two or three, depending on how you count, things that might be of interest to the group that I've had to look into in my role as the FinCom representative. One is looking at our, we, Finance Committee, have a policy that designates our 23 peer communities. It's interesting, like, to our peer communities adopt CPA. They are split right down the middle. It's sort of 11 and a half out of 23 because Winchester is voting in November. So if Winchester adopts CPA, we'll go from 11 out of 23 to 12 out of 23. So it's interesting that they're all over the place. So several of them adopted when the CPA was brand new in 2001. And then, 4 of them have adopted in the last 4 years. So it's kind of all over the place there.
What are their percentages?
So that's interesting. So it's one thing, and this pattern is not limited to our peer communities.
It's on a spreadsheet, it's kind of.
Yes. So when the CPA was first created, many communities adopted it, maybe most communities adopted it at the full 3% rate. They were also getting a full 100% match at the time because there were so few communities, so this pot was not being split very many ways. Nice. And now, of course, they're just used to it. They do it. Most adoptions after the first wave have been less. Thanks.
So you can go to 0.5%, I just noticed.
You can, yes,
that
and
the
one of our peer
0.5%
communities
on
did in fact do that. Westboro did that.
Because originally I'm looking at this thinking, okay, this is proportional to wealth of the community, but then Milton takes that away and actually made it.
It's proportional to adoption. It's inversely
Yeah.
proportional to adoption date.
Yeah, it is. Well, because the thing is too, you want to spend your money sometimes on projects other than what's allowed on this. And
Yeah.
you need to keep your money for that too.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, so we had so at our last meeting, we had Chase Mack, Communications Director for the Community Preservation Coalition, come and talk to us for hours. Great discussion. And one thing that they've observed is patterns in terms of the absolute amount that you can tend to get passed, because they've looked very closely at what does and does not, get passed by the voters. And you'll see, several of our peer communities, tried 3 or 4 times before they finally got it. And Reading, of course, tried in 2002. We actually only tried at 1% in 2002. I didn't include us on this table, which is kind of a funny thing now I think about it.
I didn't even know that we did that.
Yes.
It was actually a
And-
town meeting memo, then I remember.
Yeah.
It wasn't presented that well, though. I think that was part of the challenge. I'm not trying to lead either way, but it was, so.
I'll get to this
It was a
because.
failed override back then too, right?
So it was the same, and it's
School, because-
CPA was presented in the same election as a debt exclusion for the high school, which is strongly not recommended in terms of if you want to pass, you don't want to put it forward at the same time as a debt exclusion, which is obviously relevant to considerations because we are looking at a couple debt exclusions. Yes. So at our while I'm talking about this, at our next meeting on the agenda, we actually have to talk about some kind of initial recommendation to the select board because our charter is technically to provide a recommendation, or a charge is to provide a recommendation to the select board with respect to putting it on the ballot in November. I can't speak for the committee because we haven't voted on it, but I can certainly quote Chase Mack, who was very emphatically negative about our prospects for being able to get it done in November of 2024, that is. So, we'll talk about other options. The following elections are, it has to be part of a regular election. You can't call a special election for it.
Yeah, Winchester in the past, they delayed to make it to the presidential election because they thought, historically that brings people out. But they got their school debt exclusion done, a year ago, January. So their timing is
spaced out a
different than
little bit.
ours.
So April 2025 is an option. I'll speak for myself and say I'm not looking towards that.
That's when
April
Killen
20
would be June.
Yes, yeah, no, it would be effectively be up
And the
against.
senior center is on, I've looked at the bid documents, that's in spring of 2026, that's when that vote would be.
Yes, there, or no, I thought that was spring of 2025. Remember when real
Well, the bid document,
Okay,
I
all
downloaded
right.
I'm nosy, so I downloaded the bid documents for the senior center because I was curious, how come we're looking for an OPM? Then I was explaining to me we should have had an OPM all along. But the bid documents have a timing chart in them.
Mhm.
And I was like, I looked at all
Okay,
this
all right.
and then the way it worked out to be is like, oh, they're not really seeking,
Okay,
for the
well.
those bid documents, they're not seeking a vote until spring of 2026, which
Yeah.
is in,
That is-
different than
that's
what we're all
very
understanding, but
different
that's
than
what the
we
bid
heard.
documents
Okay,
say.
that's good to know, all right. And then, yeah, so where this is probably going, is we'll also consider November 2026. So we'll probably make some sort of initial recommendation to the select board to, ask them to.
Could be November
With respect to
2025 in
the-
between the two.
There is no election in November 2025 to go along with.
Oh, so you'd have to have a dedicated
You
one.
can't. So you're not allowed to hold a special election for the CPA. It has to be part of a regularly scheduled local or state election, which is interesting. It's weird.
And there's not like a September state ballot initiative or like.
Not currently planned. I mean, I don't know what can cause things. I don't know if things can trigger state elections, but there's not currently supposed to be a state election in November of 2025.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's so yeah, we'll see about making some recommendation with respect to November, and if the recommendation is negative with respect to November, then probably asking the select board to modify our charge so we can go ahead and do thorough research on much later dates. And then finally, the last thing that was
Or your cost estimate.
is the cost estimates, and this was my favorite part. Victor sent me spreadsheets of the value of every property in Reading, and of the assessed value, I should say, which interestingly is not the same as like I bought my house for more than its current assessed value. Don't tell Victor.
That's a good thing.
No, I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining. I do not want the assessed value of my house to increase. Fine with it where it is. Thank you. But that is worth noting though, because when people look at these numbers, they're going to say, "Oh, I have $1 million house," and you may have bought your house last week for $1 million. That does not necessarily mean that it is assessed at $1 million.
But people know their assessed value because they know what they're look
You
at
should
their
know.
tax
just on
bill.
your tax bill.
I had to look it up. I didn't know off the top of my head.
Yeah.
It's a
Should be on your
difference
tax bill.
of it's a six-figure difference between the.
I think people might know what their assessed value is relative to the average in Reading, so you can say, oh,
That's
my
another
tax is
possibility.
higher or lower than
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
$10,000
Yeah.
average, at least that's what I do.
So yeah, so doing the math, and I wasn't able to, there's a bunch of exceptions. Actually, Jack, you mind scrolling to the projected revenue section of the little memo thingy I wrote?
Impact across residential property charges.
But there's two parts. There's how much total we would take in, and there's how much it would impact various represented properties. There we go. So yeah, there are various exemptions that you can adopt when adopting the Community Preservation Act. One, which seems to be very widely adopted, is to exempt the first $100,000 of assessed value. $100,000 isn't what it used to be, but that's one thing the committee asked, was like, can we get it more? No, it's in the statute. You have to get Beacon Hill to change the law in order to have an option of exempting anything other than $100,000. Because I suspect that if you propose doubling that, a lot of towns would probably be up for it. Because certainly property values have more than doubled since 2001. But in any case, yeah, so you're looking at, and then there's whether or not commercial property is included is another decision to make. You can also have exemptions for properties that belong to low income or low and moderate income seniors. But I don't have information on the incomes of the people who live in all these properties. So I just omitted those exemptions. The CPC.
Do any communities do that? I mean,
Yeah, I think that's a pretty.
beyond seniors, like looking at income of residents?
Well, for purposes of adopting the CPA, it is.
It just feels kind of intrusive. I don't know.
Well, it's a question of whether you are. I mean, you could apply for whether when the town adopts CPA, whether it exempt low-income properties from it. So, or properties that belong to low-income residents.
But see,
It's not terribly unlike the senior.
income
tax
restricted
break we have.
properties, because people's income can vary, and people who,
It's not. I don't believe it's deed restricted. it's not about deed restricted properties. I think it's about the income. So you have to apply.
It's probably an application.
Yes. So
The default is you'll get assessed, and then you go in and you.
the owner could
for-
apply and
Or you
presumably
leave,
provide,
yeah.
evidence of what their income is, and then the CPA surcharge would be removed from their property tax bill.
I see.
So, but I couldn't estimate that because I have no idea what that would be.
Joe, do you know, can you have by the different class, could you have different surcharge rates or
It has to be one surcharge rate across all property.
all classes?
Yeah. So you can exempt, you can exempt commercial or not, but you can't assess different surcharges to commercial.
What do your communities do for commercial?
Well, that's a good question. I don't think I will take an action item to look that up because I don't actually remember. What exemptions
It's a peer
are
community.
adopted by peer communities? It's not hard. They have the community preservation. If you want to, look into this yourself, communitypreservation.org is a amazing website. It's just a treasure trove of data there. Getting reports on how communities are spending their money and it's
I
adopted
mean,
when.
it seems like,
Data on all the failed attempts.
since we've seen commercial properties drop and, there's been some push to increase the
Yeah.
split,
Yeah.
it seems unlikely that we would want to exempt commercial properties and increase the burden on the residents.
I mean,
but-
this will be, the study committee will have to make a recommendation on this either way. If you have an opinion, feel free to express it to the study committee.
Okay.
Did you on that? I know Carlo and you were on it. Who else is on the committee?
So Eric Gaffin is a representative from RAC.
Okay.
Martha Moore is a representative from Conservation. Sarah Bergolaccio is a representative from the Historical Commission. Margaret Dolly Moran is the representative from the Housing Authority.
Did you already say Carlo from Select Board? Right?
I said Carlo, just like
I said Carlo.
Yeah, so I did that one. And then we had, just to make it an odd number, we have one at-large resident, Sandy Matapia.
No, wait, okay.
So,
No, thanks. I just was curious. I didn't know. I wasn't sure who was who made up the committee.
It's on the website that Joe mentioned. So some communities, they do the exemption on residential properties only, and then some do it on residential and commercial.
yeah.
So you can actually do
That's-
either both or one or one.
That is true. If you wanted to sort of effectively have a higher rate on commercial, you could apply the first 100,000 exception on residential only.
Ah,
So effectively, it would
Right.
increase the value of commercial properties by $100,000, sort of,
Yeah. That's,
artificially relative to their assessed values.
yeah.
Joe, do you happen to know, I couldn't find this, the historical reimbursement rate? If we did say
Yes.
1%, right?
But that is a,
Was
that's a
it like
good
31%?
question. And that's something that I put in here, it's gone way up and down, and actually 39 and 14 are among the recent extremes. But it's the match is funded by a fee that's assessed anytime you file anything in the Registry of Deeds. So every property transaction, which what ends up meaning is the match basically tracks real estate activity levels. So when interest rates are low and everyone is selling their house,
Or refinance.
or refinancing their house, the match is high. Interest rates, of course, are currently high, and the match is at the pretty abysmal 14% this year. So
And 14 would apply to all, whether it's 1%, 2, or 3?
exactly, there are complicated rules for if you adopt at the 3% rate, which is very hypothetical. I don't think that's really a possibility, but for communities that did adopt it back when that was sort of politically feasible in 2001. There are additional rounds of matching on top of the initial. I think that those deed fees are taken, and 80% of them are just split up in proportion to what people collected, and so and then the remaining 20% is given, but it's a formula that is so it's means tested. So depending on the affluence of the community, and Reading is in the, I think, second highest tier by their standards. So we would get extremely little in the second and third rounds of matching, even if we did adopt a 3%. Which is part of why I don't foresee 3% being a consideration. I didn't bother including it here. So,
Especially not with the other things that'll be
Also
on
true.
everyone's bill. I
also
think.
true, but yes, nobody has, I mean, I think I don't want to say nobody. There's a lot of very different communities around, but it has not been a lot of the pattern you saw in our peer communities where recent adoptions are 1% and adoptions 20 years ago are 3%. It holds pretty widely. So.
And you can take, the community can, you might have already said this, the community can take votes to go up or down to and change
Yes.
their percentage.
It's
I don't know
roughly-
how common that is, but.
It has happened, like one of our peer communities did, they changed the exemptions at one point, I think. That's the only example I was aware of.
It seems like, I was looking for commercial exemption, commercial, and I couldn't find it, but it does seem like most communities have no exemptions for commercial. Like I was finding that with Framingham,
Yes.
Tewksbury,
Yeah.
Belmont.
Yes. Which is interesting because, I mean, usually commercial taxes are something of a, certainly in Reading politics, are something of a hot topic. But yeah, no, I don't have an example of that. I think, yes, Canton changed their exemptions. I didn't write down exactly which exemptions they changed, but in 2014, they held on their vote, 2 years after they adopted in 2012. So, probably got it from somewhere actually, but maybe, I don't know. But yes. So yeah, so we'll have an initial recommendation to the select board after our next meeting, and you know, my individual prediction, not that work of the committee, is that we'll recommend against November and ask the select board to extend our charge, so that we can research something like November 2026 or something in between.
Awesome.
So,
A lot of work going into that. Thanks, Sean. That's a, there's a lot that goes into that, and understanding the timing of that stuff is when you're going to vote and stuff like that.
Right, the next page is really important too. The one that we want to know how much we make, we don't want to know how much it would cost.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe extracts of this can be in a presentation at the next financial forum or something, or.
yeah, absolutely. If we have another financial forum,
I think this would be an excellent thing to.
Like even just this page, people, the bottom line.
yes, exactly. So,
Well, and plus by that time you'll have more of what your recommendations are as well.
potentially. I don't know how long we're going. I mean, it's like we have a bunch of ideas for ways to do more research. Like I've been in touch with the gentleman who basically ran the native CPA adoption campaign in 2022, which is something of a model example. They ran a really slick campaign, and so we'd like to get them to talk to us. We'd like to talk to some folks from Winchester about because obviously they have a very recent experience.
Yeah.
See how they do.
Well, yes. We'll probably invite them. I was going to say, it'll either be a post-mortem or a victory lap. But either way, we'll talk
Only a
about
few
them.
months.
Yes, we'll find out soon enough. And there's also, we have a ton of information from people who worked on the study committee in 2002. Of course, it was 2002, so it's all paper notes. So we've got to go through those, which might take a little while. But that'll be interesting to try to learn how that went.
No, I think that would be. I think those are great ideas. I think it's obviously in our one of our meeting minutes was from that the initial one, but I think extending what kind of Carlo presented in the first one, having something like this in the second one that just shows progress and shows some additional points. I think that would be excellent.
Did you guys assess, like, assuming, say this passed and we had the money, what are the most likely things that Reading would spend it on? Because probably we've acquired a lot of the open space that can be acquired in Reading, maybe. I don't know if that's the
Yeah.
answerable question. And historical properties, maybe we've acquired most of what's historical, and so it would be more recreation. Like, is there an area that is, if you said, okay, say we're getting $1 million in CPA money a year, or $2 million, what is the most likely thing that Reading would be using it for? Has that come up?
So this is
Or is
another
that beyond
thing
your
that we
scope?
need more time to research, and this is part of why we don't have time to research between now and November. But by design, the committee contains people from conservation, rec, historical, and housing, and so they will all, be asked to report on what the opportunities are in their respective areas. We've done this informally so far, but I don't think we've tried to weigh like the sizes of these, like how much these things would cost. And some of them are so very differently shaped. I mean, some of the housing things, typically what ends up happening is you save up the money for several years, and then it's actually used as it's usually your contribution that's matched by some much larger grant, because housing is really expensive.
Yeah, so it's not, you can't get a lot of
No, you're
bang
not
for
gonna
your
buy
buck
exactly
out of
so,
that.
you
And I
know,
don't think,
$1 million
I
doesn't
think you
get you a
can
whole
use
lot
the
of
money to
housing.
like maintain our town forest or something like that. I mean,
I mean, I
maybe
think
clear
there's some-
for
so-
cutting the bad pine trees or
No, I
things
think
like that.
actually it could be used for that.
No, I
The,
think-
yeah, invasive species management could be used for that. That's something that so those are definitely possibilities.
I mean, I know
you know,
it could build pickleball courts. I know
Yep.
if the senior center didn't have a gymnasium and we built it without a gymnasium, later we could build a gymnasium with it if we held
That's
off.
it, right, no.
Hint.
If we print a report, I'm putting a pickleball court on the cover. So, but yes, that's,
So can I just add one more thing? So this is another type of revenue stream, and with every revenue stream, you can actually borrow against it. And I see that a lot of other towns, they're actually funding projects with the CPA in anticipating of revenue.
But
So
only
there's a
certain
way-
projects.
Yeah, certainly,
Only
they
CPA
have
type
to
of
fall
projects.
within
CPA.
the qualification, but some of them, like I'm looking at them right now, is they have turf athletic fields and track. So they paid they borrowed 1.2
Right,
million.
and that's
for that.
rec-based.
One of them was for a park, Buzzard Bay Park. They borrowed $500,000 for it. One of them was the Du Bois Forest. So they're actually using it for forest projects. My guess is in the beginning, you probably don't have enough money to do large projects. But if a large project come up, you can borrow for it and actually do it. Because you have this set revenue stream that is gonna pay for it.
But couldn't you argue like you could still borrow, like we have enough in terms of the way our debt is structured now, right? We could just go out and borrow
But
too,
this
right?
is a new revenue stream, so if
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
borrow.
No, I'm not
you
saying
take the
wrong,
money
right?
out of the.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
is it, do we need that, I guess, I'm just.
It's a new revenue stream. If it passes, if the CPA passes, it can fund projects that,
And you're paying the interest back to yourself?
what do you mean by that?
When you say you're borrowing against it, is it?
No, it's just like any regular borrowing, you
Okay.
pay the interest,
Right.
but.
It'd be like a revenue
you're-
bond, I guess.
You're,
Yeah.
because it's a revenue stream and the CPA, you're getting money, it's a revenues every year.
Right.
You
Would
pay
be-
for it every year, just like any
Right.
other,
Yeah.
but you're doing a large project that you would never have done it if you didn't have this.
So, yeah, so like, so you don't necessarily have
I'm
to
thinking
do,
of something different.
yeah, you don't have to necessarily do like small onesies and twosies. You could do a bigger
Right.
project.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, you'd have to get consensus amongst all the stakeholders that this is what we want to be able to do, but then now that you have that revenue stream, that can help
Right.
fund, and so you're not borrowing.
It's a way to pay off, another way to
Yeah.
pay off your debt.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't crowd out
I was
something
thinking of
else.
a different
Exactly,
way.
so it would be part
I
of
was
it.
The debt
thinking of-
service.
I was thinking of
It
borrowing
doesn't put a lot
against
of
your
pressure on your
funds.
debt,
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
yeah, it wouldn't make encroach on our 5%.
That's a really good point, Henry.
For debt capital, so yeah. No, that'll be, so yeah, we'll certainly have lists of projects. Oh, and one more bit of homework that I haven't done yet is look back at all the projects we've considered, we being Finance Committee, town meeting, because we have approved a number of projects
Yeah.
in the past that could have been CPA. And so I'd like to sort of compile those as a reference for like, this is the sort of thing that happens in this town that, you know.
Yep. I think that's good perspective.
No.
I was gonna say Birch Meadow Phase.
Just look
pick
at
your
this
number,
one,
yes.
and you'll get a pretty good idea.
Bonded projects, okay, that's
Yeah.
all. Make
You
note of
get a
that.
pretty good idea of that.
You know, even the turf fields and stuff
Oh,
like
yeah.
that, yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
so, yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
Well, thank you. I thought it was gonna be a short update, but you all had.
No, yeah, it's, I mean, it's pretty topical, so.
Can I chime in with a question? Sorry.
Please.
Of course not.
Okay, cool. We'll see ya.
Go ahead.
Is there, if it's adopted, is there a threshold that has to be spent, or is it something we could accumulate over time?
You don't have to, so you have to, there are requirements about allocating some of it every year, but there's not a requirement to spend it. So you have to allocate 10% of it every
interesting.
year to each of open space / rec, historical and
Right.
housing. But that just basically means you just put it in a different account and set it aside. you don't have to spend any of it. You can just take the whole thing and bank it for 10 years and then do something
That's
huge
where I've
if you
seen
wanted
the
to.
articles though, where
Yeah.
towns have allocated the money into affordable housing, but it's never gotten spent because it's never been enough. And that's been a criticism, I think.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you have some other towns that have actually borrowed for affordable housing because they have it, and they cannot do much with that, but they can borrow and do the project. And you'll see, if you go through the
Yes,
project,
no.
there's a lot of them that use it that way
Yeah.
for the affordable
Yeah,
housing.
that, and the other thing with affordable housing that Margaret mentioned was, because I think she's done work with other CPA communities that do affordable housing, that have use it for affordable housing, and it's invariably, it is it's a grant where the town or city is expected to put in some small share themselves, and so they use CPA for that. So
Yep.
they end up multiplying the money
Match, yeah.
considerably, basically, by being eligible for grants that require partial matching.
That's interesting.
So,
That's good to know too.
yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Joe. Any other questions for Joe? Alrighty, so we now are on to reorganize. So Sharon, am I passing it to you to run this part of the meeting?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, well,
I think so. So I can all that to the end of the right back to the chair.
yeah, so you'll just, so I'll pass it to you. We'll do chair, and then the chair can do vice chair.
Okay, so we have a nomination for chair.
I do have a nomination. I nominate Joe Carnahan for chair.
Second?
Thanks, Emily. If I can, Sharon, I just wanted to be able to kind of state, just, kind of given the work that Joe and I have, I've worked with Joe just in the last year, and a lot of what we've kind of come up with from an agenda perspective, outside of what he does within the meetings, but has been super helpful. I've been a little bit more out of pocket over the last year. I've traveled a little bit more for work, and so Joe's really kind of been able to step in with a lot of the discussions that we've had with Sharon and Matt on different pieces, but then also kind of coming up with agendas. And he's been really indispensable as regards to that. So it's been a huge help, and kind of already kind of stepping in and doing chair duties when that I'm sure that's not what he signed up for. So.
We cannot hear you, Sharon.
Can you hear me?
Slightly.
It's very quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Oh dear, lost it again.
Are you waving on me?
We're waiting for Sharon.
Okay, sorry, my audio's been a little funky.
Yeah.
We'll wait for once we can hear Sharon.
Not that anyone asked me, but yes, I'm okay with being chat.
Actually, I'm sure that was her next. That was her next thing is to ask if you accepted.
Maybe can Sharon put on
Vice chair.
captions or something so we can,
I think
See
she's
what
trying
she's-
to reconnect. I think.
Oh.
She dropped off.
Oh yeah, she disconnected completely. I no longer see her on the list. Oh, there she's back.
Jackie can let her in.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, much better. Yep.
So much better.
Sorry.
No worries.
Okay, so we had the nomination for Joe. Any other nominations?
I have one, so.
I'm sorry, did you say something?
Yeah, Joe. yeah.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I'll go ahead. I nominate Marion Downing. And, yeah, I definitely, like Joe, I think what Marianne, brings to the table, served with her on the opera committee. I thought she did a great job as a chair of that.
Oh, I'll second. Also, I'll second that first. Sorry, Sharon.
Okay.
Go ahead, Joe, sorry about that, didn't mean to
Yeah,
interrupt.
that's right. Also, some of the things that, for that opera committee, working across, beyond the finance committee, she had to work with, select board, a lot of different constituents, right? A lot of people that, came with different needs and, trying to manage a large sum of money. I thought she did a great job with it. I'm always impressed with how prepared she is and how thorough she is with like following up on, questions and, members of the community. So, yeah, I think she could be really effective in the position. So.
Well, thank you. I think I'm okay with that. I'm okay with a vice chair thing too. I appreciate that nomination. I think Joe's gonna get chair.
Any other nominations? So do we normally do a vote, like, on the first one first and then the second? How do you typically?
Yeah,
do it?
it's first one first. Well, however, yeah.
I think, does it actually
Okay, so-
specify alphabetical?
I mean, even alphabetical.
I have always seen alphabetical, yes.
Yeah, let's do it, yeah.
I don't just say that because my last name starts with a C.
I
Okay,
think
so-
specifically that was.
Yeah, in either case, we're doing the same order.
Okay, so should we just do Joseph first? All
Yeah.
those in favor of Joseph as the chair?
We're gonna have to roll call it, because we have people online too.
Okay, roll call vote. So let's start with people on, in the room. Ed,
Yes.
Mary Ann?
I guess I'll even say yes.
Yes.
Just say.
I'm sorry, I can't do this.
Thank you anyway. But I know
It's
it's
Joe McDonough.
I don't know if I should take away my.
It's
Vote your conscience, Joe, vote your conscience.
I'll vote no. Nothing against you, Joe, first. Okay? I'll stick with my nomination, so.
Andrew,
Yes?
Joseph,
Joe Carnahan, yes.
and then
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey.
Yes.
And then we have John online.
Yes.
And you got Emily, and Mark too.
Oh, I don't see, I don't see their pictures, sorry. Emily,
Yes.
Mark,
So I'd like Mary Ann to be, so this isn't a vote against Joe as much as for Mary Ann. So I'd be no for Joe and yes for Mary Ann.
okay. So we had 2 no's and, was that what I heard, 2 no's?
Yes.
Do we still do another vote when we have the majority?
No.
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 It's done.
All
Yeah.
right. Okay. And you're off
So
the
now I'd be
hook.
hand- So now I'd be handing it over to Joe.
Yes.
Yep. All right. So now we are looking for nominations for vice chair.
I'll nominate Mary Ann.
Second.
Oh, I was gonna steal it.
Too bad. You guys show up in these meetings in person.
That's right. Zoom lag. Gotcha.
It's so hard to make the motions.
I know, that's why we do it this way.
All right. You already said we were okay with that. So
Yeah.
that was the question. All right. Any other nominations for vice chair? All right. This is obviously pro forma. Let's do it. I'll actually do it. I guess I'll do it the same way Sharon did it, because sure, why not? So Ed,
Yes.
Mary Ann,
Yes.
Joe McDonough,
I want to say no, but I won't. I'll say yes, of course.
Humphrey, Joe Carnahan, yes.
Jeffrey, yes?
John Sullivan,
Yes.
Emily Sisson,
Yes, with my thanks to both of you, the Green Team.
and Mark Zarrow.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
All right.
Congrats.
Awesome.
And thank you, Joe, for your confidence. I knew I was going
Next
down
year.
for chair. Yeah, next year. I'm biding my time. I only get one more term after, well, I'm still in my term, but then one more. I'm gonna go in my last term. You're in your last term, right?
No, I
Third
guess
or three?
I still have one more term.
One more term coming
You
up,
can get
right?
reappointed.
You get 3-year terms.
If the chair is willing to, if the appointment committee that includes the FinCom chair is willing to reappoint you, yes. you can be
Exactly, yes, I'm eligible. I'm eligible for one more. Yeah, I'm eligible.
So are you up next summer?
Gets back to
I might be. Although I
So
actually,
you should have asked Joe if he'll
yeah,
vote
no, I
nominate you.
I might be, although I know I've done one where I was the chair for, and I was up. So it's,
Yes,
in the
actually.
last couple of years.
3 years ago.
Was it 3?
I was applying, oh no, 2 years ago. 2 years ago,
yeah.
I was applying for a 2-year slot. Emily was applying for a 3-year slot. You were reapplying for 3 years. And I forget, was it you or, I can't remember who, someone else.
I was coming on in 2020, so that was that the year? No, you were.
No, I
You
was-
were on in 2019, so it was an odd year.
Yeah, so, yeah, no, I
Yes,
remember.
yeah, I was on 19
I think
and a
I
half, 3 years.
interviewed immediately before or after Ed. 'Cause I remember Ed having to like recuse himself from his own
Yeah,
committee.
that's right. That was it, yeah.
So, yeah, well, were I up for reappointment this year, I would not want to be chair because that's just.
That's right, that's very delicate.
So, but yes, so no, I'm, for the record, I'm strongly in favor of reappointing experienced members of the committee, so, assuming they want. All right, so then let's move on with the agenda.
Hey, Joe,
Sorry?
can I just say one thing?
Certainly.
So, I don't know how to say this, but I think we should say like good, like thank you or tip of the hat to Ed for like all his like service. So it's been,
I'm so proud you ceded your power, Ed.
You know how hard this was, Emily. It was really hard. It was really hard.
Don't go there,
Yeah.
please.
John, that's not necessary. I've said it, I think privately to a lot of folks, I thoroughly love working on the finance committee, and a lot of it is because of of every person that we have on it. It's been super fun, and I'm thrilled though to be not chair.
Sharing something's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
And depending on the timing of when, when the future chairs come in, like that'll be the person dealing with when we have to push debt exclusions and overrides.
Yeah.
So maybe this is the year to coast through without having to
it's a-
save the hard stuff for the future
Right.
chairs.
Exactly. But no, it's, I appreciate that, Joey, but completely unnecessary.
We'll see. And yeah, since I don't expect the CBA study committee to be recommending a vote this one, I do not expect to be busy with CBA study committee, because when we know we're not sprinting till November, we don't need to rush. So,
When does the charter of the committee end?
the current charge ends the end of the year, so obviously we'll get the select board whether or not they want to extend it, but I think we'll probably ask them to extend it so that we can research, for a future date. So, strictly speaking, they don't I mean, it was interesting. Apparently, Natick didn't have an official charter committee. It was just a group of it wasn't an ad hoc committee formed by the select board. I have to ask them about the details of how they did it, but I mean, it is the bottom line is that people get together and have a CPA study club or whatever. It has no association with local government, and that then puts together a report, distributes it, and uses a petition to get something on the warrant or whatever, or just asks the select board to put something on the warrant.
I sensed Reading really wanted to emulate Winchester based on, they got the Winchester presentation in.
Yeah.
And all the tips were like the way Winchester, so we'll see.
Winchester didn't have to do a town manager search this year, which is why they got ahead of us.
Every town has their
I know,
issues,
yeah,
their
things happen.
superintendent searches, whatever they have.
Yeah. So, no, we were on roughly the same schedule as them, but less hard. It's okay, I'm very happy with him. See what he's doing at Chelsea. It's really cool. But anyway, all right. Cool. Anything else? Should we go on to minutes? Anybody have any?
So we have to reorganize who's liaisons, right?
Yeah, so
That'll.
actually,
I'm sorry, Ed.
Yeah, no, I can't, I'm figuring out a term, yeah. No.
You've been, maybe you have been chair too long.
I haven't.
Well, you've got the list of it all, you have to
Yeah.
pass all your secret
first challenge.
documents on.
Yeah, no, that's.
Where's the gavel?
Exactly. Yeah, no, gavel. This is,
I gotta go steal it from Brian next door, assuming Conscom still me. Yeah, it's not on the agenda tonight. If I recall, last year we did liaison assignments in August, and I figured we'd do that again this year in August. So,
I think that's clear.
but
That was purposeful. It was purposeful.
All right, we did put it on. All right, good question though. And we will need to actually figure out that, so, all right. Anything else, or any other, so again, approving prior meeting minutes. Any corrections or questions or comments on the May 28th, 2024 financial forum minutes?
I have one, Joe.
Please, Adam.
Yeah, so just, again, looking at the minutes, I didn't have anything to change. I just, comment-wise, just the number of, just to show some appreciation, we had a ton of people. I don't know, people looked, we had probably the most people that we've had in a FinCom-ish meeting present. And I thought really that everyone that presented, Sharon, I thought you did an awesome job. I thought talking about, just the kind of the finance pieces, I thought Indri was excellent as far as adding to that. I thought Carla did an amazing job, and she's been doing an amazing job as chair, but she did a great job, her and Tom, on Killam. I thought Mark did excellent, kind of describing where they are with recalc, and we're already seeing some of the, kind of the more structure to that on the back end. I thought Carla, kind of, reset the charge for CPA. I thought it was just an excellent meeting, and I'm looking forward to the next one. So I really was really happy with how it came out.
Yeah, it's a lot of others present.
It was a lot. It was, that kind of stuck out to me when I saw it.
So Jackie, just on those remote people, are those some of them that they didn't provide their last name, and that's why we just see Judy and Eric without
Right.
last names? Okay.
I know Judy was Judy Coldman, if that helps, but if they didn't report it, I guess you probably can.
Yeah, the next.
See, now I'm trying to see if there's any of these I can identify. Not sure I can actually.
So I know just in the minutes here, it's saying that we're going to have a financial forum in September. That was in May, so we're planning on one in September. So is that, and then, so the September 18th is still the financial, I know we're getting ahead to future meeting agenda items, so that's still.
Yeah, I
I'm
think.
wondering if we're going to have enough information by then.
Yeah, I mean, it could,
Killam, I guess.
I mean, it could be, I mean, it really could be. I was looking at the other things that, I mean, I know that's what I said.
I guess we
in-
have
You may have
to.
been wrong, but it is what you said.
Yeah, that's what I said. But we could also do, I mean, conceivably, we could do something in August. If we have an August 21st meeting, we could conceivably, repurpose that meeting for doing, kind of an extension of this.
If I heard Marianne correctly, she's concerned about not having information yet.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking to say, okay, so we have one meeting, our next meeting, right, we're going to be reorging, and then there'll be more Killam information by then, and I guess by then, Recalc will have their OPM possibly selected. And then, but then, I guess, what is going to be the new information by September 18th for a financial forum? It'll mainly be Killam information?
Well, I mean, our normal.
And the CPA maybe decision. close.
So our normal financial forum in September, then we start to get back into
Yeah.
budget.
No, I guess that is the,
Yeah.
I guess that would be the day,
Yeah,
and I should be.
yeah, talking about free
Yeah,
cash.
I think actually, that was one thing, we were talking about this last time. It was, I had a little trouble actually making it all fit. It seemed like everything was going to go into the first financial forum and nothing was going to go into the second one.
Yeah.
Because we have to talk about free cash in the first financial forum because we have to make our recommendation prior to the second one.
Yeah.
So if we can, if the capital stuff gets put off to the second forum, that's going to be fine.
Yeah.
I guess this is it, so, well, don't want to get that past the minutes, I just noticed we were referring to something in the minutes, but
Yeah, good.
the minutes are okay.
It's a topic on the agenda, so we're allowed to discuss it. Is that
We'll
order?
get past the minutes.
But yes. All right. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our May 28th meeting as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Too slow, Emily.
She might have been
This
first one on
unmute
the Zoom
button, the unmute button is killing me.
Yes, all right, thank you, Ed, thank you, Jeffrey. Got to do this by roll call, sorry.
Yeah.
I'll go back to starting on Zoom. John?
Yep.
Emily?
Yes.
Mark? Possibly muted. Is Mark still here? Checking the Zoom. He's still here.
Emily or John, can you hear anything?
I can hear you now.
We can hear you, Mark.
Mark, can you hear us?
If you approve the minutes, Mark, say yes.
He's muted now.
Maybe he's.
Am I not audible on the Zoom? I'm usually.
No, we can hear you.
Okay.
I can
I hear you.
All right. I mean,
Is there a Zoom chat that he can?
Not that I-
That's probably not allowed. You just.
I am. All right.
I can't hear you.
Oh dear. All right.
It's probably on his side now.
That might be on his side. Then I don't know if.
Everybody else here, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, let's. I guess that's an abstain.
Skip him, it's an
That's an
abstain.
abstain. All right. It's a very important vote here. I don't know. All right. Ed, please.
Yes.
Marianne.
Yes.
Joe. Yes. Henry.
Yes.
Jeffrey.
Yes.
And Joe, yes. Joe Kernan, yes. All right, on to the minutes from June, end of June.
Move to approve the minutes of June 26th,
Second.
2024.
Second.
You really do. Thank you, Marianne. Thank you, Emily. I don't think you can second the motion if it hasn't been made, Ed.
So should we done with it? Sorry,
I think she's still talking.
You can give Emily a thorough
She
vote.
took a breath. I had to sneak in.
I was just adding the year, but that's okay.
Ed literally didn't wait for her to finish, so.
I did.
All right, okay. Any discussion? I didn't have any myself, so, all right. Roll call vote. John?
Yep.
Emily?
Yep.
Mark, it would be great if you can hear me. Sounds like we are still having technical difficulties. It's unfortunate. Ed?
Yes.
Marianne?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Henry?
I have to abstain, I wasn't present.
Okay, one abstain for Henry. Jeffrey?
Yes.
And Joe Carnahan, yes. So 702. All right, meeting schedule, next meeting dates, future agenda items. We have a prospective schedule in the packet. Do people have comments, questions, or concerns? Look at this off to see if I'm available on the 18th.
Does Sharon have anything on her end for the 18th?
Sharon, that was a question to you.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
So Sharon, did you have anything, kind of already circled for the 18th on your end for us?
Well, normally we do our financial forum, the first financial forum, we give kind of like the projections of accommodated cost and revenues and if we have it, free cash. So that could happen on the 18th. It'd be really early to do it on the 21st of August. That's too early.
So do you have anything for the 21st then? Sorry, I had my numbers transposed.
Oh, okay, the 21st, nothing is coming to mind. I don't know, we're just, as we approach budget season and we've got these projects, I think we have one every month scheduled. We don't always need them.
Gotcha.
We've already talked about for the August 21st.
Somebody is on assignments.
Sorry, liaison assignments, thank you.
I don't know if we're gonna be due, weren't we talking a couple of meetings ago about getting an update on, was it the RCTV finances? Wasn't there some other finance?
Well, we've talked on and off about getting a presentation from RMLD.
RMLD, that's it.
Yep.
Different format, or,
Yeah, Mark would know, he's our liaison to that, would know more, but I think we wanted an update. Or,
okay, I think we have two liaisons.
oh, there were two.
What's the name? These two, okay.
All right, maybe Mark isn't confused.
He may have been in the past, I'm not sure.
maybe I was thinking of RCTV because I thought somebody told me that the building that they're in is now up for rent, so I don't know if RCTV is moving, or maybe that was just a rumor. I don't want to like spread rumors in a meeting, but I know they were concerned about meeting their rent. And I don't know. I know the select board's having a discussion with RCTV in September anyway. They're concerned with their finances, but we do want to have it. That we could, maybe in August, we could plan something for when we can talk to RMLD in the fall. Any financial update?
I mean, we don't have a lot on that August 21st
No.
date.
Yeah.
And some of the
Other than
things are
planning
fall.
what's going to happen in September, I guess.
But if RMLD is available, then it might be worth
Yeah, that
going
would
ahead
be.
and having them come.
So is this something that one of you two can ask about? I mean, I know there was talk about them, there was some question of them borrowing, and
Yep.
if that's something that town meeting would have to approve. then we do
So
have
if we
recommendations,
reach
so-
out to them, is it just a financial update in general, or are we focusing on a subject specific, or?
I mean, I think it's, if they have anything they want to talk to us about financially that would be relevant to the town.
I would think their focus would be on the potential borrowing. So I would say August would be a good time for RMLD to come in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I can reach out to them.
Okay.
Go with some.
so, everybody will reach out, feel free
Yeah,
to
I'll
CC
reach out.
me on that or whatever if you want. I don't know if everybody has my email or not, but, it's just Carney@gmail. So,
Okay.
so,
I'll reach out to them.
okay, cool. So if you reach out to them,
Because I'm actually out of the country at the 21st.
That's fine.
So,
I mean, I'm friends with a member of the RCTV board. I can reach out to them.
and there's a meeting tomorrow night too.
I saw that, yeah.
The president. So, Mary Ann, if you want, I can reach out to the president of the RCTV board if there's anything they'd like to talk to us about.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they were reserving that the select board, I know they had, their contract was coming up, and the select board was gonna talk to them, like, some issues got raised, and then they said they were gonna try to have time in September. I don't know if they would talk to the select board before us. Maybe I should just try to find out if the thing about, I saw with the building was going to change, if they were looking for a different building, or looking to sublet maybe some of their space, or maybe it's just as a common address, and what this person saw on LoopNet that they shared with me was erroneous or coincidental. But they do return some money, they do, the town collects money that we then,
Right. We're
Provide to them.
a pass-through for it, but yes.
yeah.
You have to vote on it.
But they're running a continual deficit, and they're not able to, Sharon had given a few months ago some of their financials to us, remember? It's in our, I think it was May, and they are having financial issues.
All right. I'll reach out to the president of their board.
Yeah, but I think to the Marion's first point, if they're already scheduled to do it to the select board, they should probably do the select board before they do us.
Yeah, and maybe if there's anything then
Yeah.
that's out of that arises on, okay, what does this tie in with the
Or
town?
before us. Okay.
I'd have to go look at a recent select board meeting to see, okay, what are their future agendas? I can take an action though to see
Yeah.
when are they going to the select board, and see how that fits into our timing, because it may be later.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Doesn't sound like that's likely to end up on the August agenda.
No, it's not urgent. It'll probably be in between the two, well, we may not even meet in between the two financial forums, like sometime in October maybe. That will be, because we're closing the warrant.
Do you think that in August, we might have some review of November town meeting, like whatever articles have come up? I don't know if they finalize it by then, but they might have some information we can start sharing about the articles we know about. So I don't know, sometimes, town manager would review. I don't know if August is too early for that, because I don't know when they close that warrant. I think it's a little bit early. It's not closed by the select board. Do we normally wait till the select board closes the warrant?
I think we typically do.
Yeah, I mean, we do it, I mean, that being said, if there's
something.
literally anything that Matt wants to talk to us about, I'm happy to listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big one's gonna be
I don't know what he's got planned.
financial, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, so anything that, obviously we'll be in touch with.
Well, didn't in the Springtown meeting, didn't he hold off on the borrowing for Lower Haven or something? And
I mean, that is,
and that, we tabled that article, remember? So I guess we could ask if that was gonna come back in the fall, or,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what was happening with that,
yeah, so that might be the biggest,
because that was like 7 million in borrowing or something.
that could be the biggest financial item of November potentially, so. We all know what we're actually gonna spend for 3 days delivery, but,
Maybe, or maybe,
Well, maybe
you know,
not,
or
maybe
keep
not.
our fingers crossed
right.
for next
I
week.
hope-
I agree with Mary Ann. That's,
Alright, okay.
I'm optimistic.
Okay.
I'm not gonna be here on October 9th. The rest are fine.
Oh, okay.
I'm not gonna be here on October 9th. I'm away.
Lucky duck.
I mean, we can look at calendars when we get closer to, none of this
I
is,
have
you
it
know.
booked right now, so it's
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's,
planned like 6 months out. So.
yeah, and that will be obviously a good one. We'll actually be discussing warrant articles, but, so if there's a different time that would work for more of us, obviously we'll do that, but we'll see.
It's not-
I don't know the warrant articles more by September 18th, because I think the select board usually closes them around like September 27th or something,
Oh,
by then.
Right there, yeah.
Because then they have to be ready for us to vote in October.
Yep. Alright. So yeah, so financial forum 2 will likely be, we'll have more info about capital projects, at least Killam.
Yeah.
So, and now we'll learn more about the changes on, for recal. Alright, and then, yeah, we have our, you know, in case of last minute warrant article meeting, hopefully not have. Do we even need to look at the 2025 part of the schedule right now?
No.
It's here if we want, but I mean, I sure as heck don't know what I'm doing on March 12th, 2025. I mean, actually, I know what I'm doing, I'm coming to FinCom. Like, assuming I don't have the flu
It's
again.
18th birthday. I know what I'm doing.
Oh, okay. We might, I think, but if you'll be busy, I will definitely not get the flu that week this year. So, all right, cool. Anything else on the topics of future agendas and meetings?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Emily, you gotta come hang out with us, that's all there is to it.
You know, I was on single parent duty tonight, and I just couldn't make the whole world work. Sorry, guys.
Appreciate
We'll pick up your slack on motions and seconds.
I'm sorry we have to have a roll call to adjourn. My fault.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Say it's only 8:25.
You're one of 3.
Yeah, so, all right. Roll call vote to adjourn. John,
Yes.
Emily,
Yes, please.
Mark, if you can hear me, if you can't,
Just see the meeting end.
Melissa.
yeah, he'll see the meeting again.
He's there.
He's there and he is not
He's a
muted
little,
according to the
he's a little
Zoom
flag
thing.
free.
Yeah, the little black fans from since we joined, I don't know what's going on. All right, anyway, moving along with the vote. Ed,
Yes.
Marianne,
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Jeffrey.
Yes.
And Joe Carnahan, yes. All right. Take care.